Howdy folks, Jean Marie here with the second edition of the garden video blog, or vlog as I'm told it's supposed to be called. Welcome, thanks for checking us out. I'm standing here in front of the garden. We actually got it planted. It took us a while because we had to chip away a couple hours at a time, but we finally got everything planted, at least everything that there is for now. So let's go check it out. Ta-da! So this is the garden. It took us some time to even get the soil ready. This entire area was covered in sweet potatoes and grass and weeds. It was really quite uncultivated. So we decided to save some money and till the ground ourselves with our bare hands, or at least Scott did a lot of it. I did a lot of the raking in behind him because the soil here is it's good in parts, but then it's also got some loose rocks around. So I found the rocks challenging to till around, but we got it done. I also purchased some little green fencing that you can see there around the edges for a couple of reasons. Number one, Master Yoda, my puppy, who you may be familiar with through other posts on the blog, turns out he's quite an avid digger. So that came in handy while we were tilling the garden. However, I'd rather not have him do that now that we have it planted. And we also have a lot of wild chickens running around, which I battled in Paia for the mess they make. And we have many more here than we ever had in Paia. I appreciate the bugging that they do and the manure that they leave, but the detrimental effects I've found outweigh the benefit, at least in a small veggie plot like this. I usually had to spend a lot of time cleaning up after the digging and the scratching that they did. So I hope that this deters them a little bit. So let's get to cracking. Let's get looking at this stuff. Over here we have sunflowers along the far left there. So I'll have sunflowers as a border there, and I also have sunflowers as a border along this right hand side. And they also kind of delineate on this side the pathways that I have into the garden in between beds. So they serve dual function. I also have this makeshift trellis here that we just made with several poles lashed together. I need to procure some more twine to finish making my stakes of sort for the tomatoes. What I'll do is attach the twine to the ground using little small stakes, and then I'll prune the tomato plants up the twine as they grow. And we'll get into that. I'll show you some of that as that happens later. Then next to that we've got cucumbers. We've got 3 cucumber plants at the moment that look like they have a little bit of mildew going already, a little powdery mildew it seems. So I'm going to have to get the mildew spray out, which is a baking soda spray. I have the recipe for that, I believe, in the first garden post I ever did. So if you want to scroll back and find that, you can find that it's an organic household spray that knocks out powdery mildew pretty well. Then above that we've got a row of eggplants in the center there. Then here we have mustard greens, which are just starting to recover. I think they got baked a little bit when I first put them in, but they're starting to come back now. Those are pretty robust growers usually. And then I've got jicama. I need a couple more of those. They're doing quite well. I just didn't get very many to germinate, so I need to go through another round of germination with seeds. Get a few more of those plants. Then I have arugula, nice spicy green, that's doing quite well. In the middle there I have beets, which I direct sowed. I direct sowed the seed into the ground rather than starting them in pots, simply because I need to plant so many of them. I don't have 200 pots, so It's easier to just direct sow and in rows and then thin them as they get bigger. And I'll go into that. I'll show you how that works when I'm ready for it. This is, wow, these are the radishes, which are just about ready to be thinned already. I direct sowed them as well. They're the same as the beets. I needed a lot of them in rows, and so I just sowed the seed into the ground, old-fashioned style. And they're about ready to be thinned, so perhaps I'll be getting you a video sooner rather than later on how to do that. And I'll explain that more as that comes up. Then I've got yellow bell peppers in the center, which are doing quite well. Yeah, they look great so far. That's about all I have to say for them. We'll see how well they produce. Here it looks like I just have hoses laid out over dirt, but I direct sowed carrot seeds here. I'll try to get you focused in on that. There they are. Their sprouts are very small. So they're coming up, and same deal. I needed a bunch of them, so I just sowed them into the ground. It'd be way harder to transplant them than to just sow them in. So hopefully we'll have some carrots too. I've never grown carrots successfully, so this is an experimental crop for me. Next to that we have the rainbow chard, which is being nibbled on by some creature of the night. Probably snails, I'm thinking, or maybe birds. No, I think it's probably snails. So I need to start some more of these plants and implement some protection measures, apparently, against snails or slugs, little critters. Right above that we have the kale, which is doing quite well. And birds do like to eat kale, so while I've got these young kale plants growing here, we also have in the raised beds with old plants several kale plants interspersed there, and I'm going to leave them. They're really old plants and they've been eaten quite a bit, but they still have growth on them, and they're going to be my decoys. I hope that the birds will just keep going there and leave my baby plants alone. We'll see how well that works. I know they're probably smarter than that, but you never know. Maybe it'll work. Then we have the mesclun green lettuces, mesclun mix. So we've got a little mix of greens there, which is doing really well for as hot as it's been. I've expected to need to shade tent them, just draping a thin netting over them to kind of diffuse the sunlight so that they don't bolt so quickly or wilt, which I still may need to do because they're growing really fast. And lettuces in heat will produce flowers like those you see there in the bed, those really tall, flowery things. That's lettuce bolted. They'll do that really quickly in the heat, so I may still need to get some netting for them, but they look good so far. I'm going to hop over the fence now and get you a closer look in here. Here we have our Brussels sprouts, which are, they really should be a winter crop. They probably like cooler weather. I've never grown them before. I tried once in Paia, but they got eaten before they made any headway, so that was while I was out of town. So we'll see how well they do. We get more rain and it's cooler at night here in Haiku, so I'm kind of hedging my bets that they'll be okay. We'll find out sooner or later. Next to them I have broccoli, which really should be another winter crop, but I wanted to give it a shot. I'm kind of trying all season crops right now since we're in a new environment, and seeing what does best. Seeing if I can get away with winter crops year round up here. The broccoli is also being eaten, like the chard. I've had a few plants eaten, so I'll have to protect that as well. And I think that's snails. I think it's the same thing as what's eating the chard. And then last but not least, we have our Three Sisters plot, which is a 10 by 10 plot with 5 rows of 5 mounds each. Right now I have corn going there. And the Three Sisters are corn, beans, and squash. of some sort. And the way you do this is a Native American gardening technique, or farming technique rather. You start the corn, and when it's about 4 or 5 inches tall, which this is ready, you plant the squash and the beans in the mounds, and the squash will go in the empty mounds in between where the corn is, and then the beans will be interspersed in between the corn, just evenly spaced, here, here, and here, 4 each. And as the corn gets taller and the beans grow, the pole beans will have the corn as a stake to climb as they vine up. So they work together in that regard. And the beans are also a nitrogen fixer in the soil, so they'll replenish the soil when they are done. Nitrogen fixing plants just fix nitrogen in the roots. They store nitrogen in their roots, and then when the plant starts to break down, they release the nitrogen back into the soil. So they're great plants to have around, and all the legumes, all the plants in the leguminous family, like beans, are nitrogen fixers. And then the squash helps to keep the ground moist for the plants, for the corn and the beans. The squashes will have big leaves that shade the ground, that not only fixes moisture and keeps the ground more moist, but deters weeds, which you can tell I'm already far behind on. I need to come in and weed. You can see all that grass growing in there. Of course, the weeds grow way faster than I'd like. So that's the Three Sisters method, which I've never tried. This is brand new to me. So I'll let you know how that works out. And you'll also notice that when I made my mounds, I didn't just make big round mounds. I made sort of a crater in the top. And the reason for that is to capture more moisture. So as water falls on the mound, rather than just rolling off and whatever happens to be absorbed on the way gets absorbed, it kind of pools in the center and keeps the mound more moist for the plants. Now that's also a new technique for me, which seems so obvious now. I can't believe I didn't think of it or hadn't heard of it until now, but it's great. It seems to be working really well. I'm really happy with it. And just a note on watering, while we're talking about water, I've got everything on a soaker hose system right now. You'll see all these hoses running around. They sweat. They're these soft canvas hoses that sweat water as the water runs through them, which is, it's okay. I like the flexibility of it. I can kind of snake it in through the plants and make sure everybody gets some water. However, I'd really, I'm keeping my eyes out for a nice little irrigation system. I got to save up a little money. It'll probably be somewhere around $100 to invest in that, in some sort of system that, the kind that have the little fine misters on the top. They have these stakes that stand up and they spray out a fine mist over all the plants. That's more ideal, I think. It's a more efficient way to get water spread out more evenly over all the plants. As it is right now, with these soaker hoses, it can be a little spotty. So that's it for the garden for now. Thanks for checking in. I'll keep you updated as things progress. I have a goal for this garden to be a little better about successive plantings. What I mean by that is, for instance, now that I have a lot of plants going in the garden, in the next couple of weeks I'll start new plants so that I have sort of rolling crops, so that I don't have big gaps in between harvests. This should help me provide a little bit more of a steady stream of food for the household, rather than these big bursts of everything being ready at once. So I'll try to keep up with that. I'll let you know how that goes. It's kind of hard to do, especially when you have year-round growing here in Hawaii like we do, it can be hard to keep up with. So like I said, thanks for checking in. Please give us your comments or your feedback or suggestions. I love those. And until next time, aloha.